Welcome to Sound and Vision, conversations with contemporary artists and musicians about the creative process. Here's the host of Sound and Vision, Brian Alfred.
NYC Crit Club is a radical alternative art program offering critique, community, and connection for artists post-BFA and post-MFA. The NYC Crit Club, founded and directed by Hilary Doyle and Catherine Haggerty, is proud to offer BIPOC scholarships and work-study rates for artists in financial need. Fall 2021, the Crit Club will be continuing with the Zoom courses that since 2020 have allowed them to connect with artists around the United States and across the world, while also returning to in-person courses at their new space in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Fall 2021 features a wide range of courses focusing on advanced critique, with 5 sections of the Visiting Critic program and a newly designed Art Career Intensive course. NYC Crit has added new courses in art history, writing, photography, the theory and history of drawing, color theory, and queer art history. Faculty Yevgenia Baras and Padma Rajendran will each be leading their own uniquely designed material intensives. Fall 2021 enrollment is now open. Courses often fill in the first week, so early registration is highly encouraged. Sound and Vision is proudly sponsored by Golden Artist Colors. I'm working on my upcoming solo show at Miles McHenry Gallery in March, and everything is happening through Golden Paint. From the gesso, the mediums, and the paint, Golden's the best you can get. The pigments are amazing, and nothing lives up to Golden. An employee-owned company based in upstate New York. Check out their stuff at your local art store or online at goldenpaints.com. You know what else is making it happen in the studio? Fulcrum Coffee. Since Fulcrum has started me on their subscription coffee program, I've been trying new coffee each week, and there hasn't been a dud so far. Really great coffee with distinct differences in each roast. It's some of the best coffee I've had. And trust me, I've had a lot. The next time you're looking for coffee, check out Seattle-based Fulcrum Coffee Roasters. You can find out more and get their coffee at fulcrumcoffee.com. Sound and Vision listeners get a 20% discount on their order with the code ALFREDSTUDIO when purchasing their coffee. Gao Hang is a Houston-based Chinese artist. He received his Master of Fine Arts degree in painting and drawing from the University of Houston, and a Bachelor's of Art degree in oil painting from the Capital Normal University, and is a 2020 Houston Artadia Fellow. His artworks have been shown in major galleries in the Netherlands, Spain, Korea, Germany, and England. He's currently showing at the Whole Gallery at East Hampton, New York, and the Pulpo Gallery in Germany. His 2 upcoming solo shows will take place in Houston and London later this year. Gao and I spoke about stand-up comedy, new media, Beijing and Houston, analog and digital, and much more. Here's our conversation.
My studio's in my house. I sort of remodeled one of the guest bedroom into the studio because, you know, the thing is I use airbrush, those spray gun thing. It'll basically dust on everything. So
stuff is like
right.
It gets everywhere.
Yeah, you can't get a really big studio with your already made painting there. It's gonna get dust on it. So that little guest room is perfect. You know, high ceiling, so I can make bigger works, and you know everything in it is just the work I am working on. You know, I can't storage anything in it.
Right, so basically you turned a guest room in your place into a spray booth.
Right, yeah. Studio, yeah.
Isn't? But I mean, like, you can't. Whenever you have like because I have friends who use. I've used an airbrush a little bit here and there in work, but never like large expanses of things that But I know people who use it a lot, like industrial size, and it's just that paint gets everywhere because it's aerosol, so they have to cover plastic everything out, and it's basically like a laboratory.
Yeah exactly.
But imagining that in a house
right totally
seems like risky for your security deposit unless you own your place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I own this place, but yeah, you have to seal every single gap, you know,
Yeah.
towards other space. But yeah, I seal everything. But I do have a place, you know, the dining, what's they call, formal dining room. I'm still learning English, basically. Sorry.
Yeah, like a dining room. Right.
Yeah, for like the bigger dining room. Yeah, so I mean, nobody's gonna use it, you know. I sort of transfer that into like a little, you know, gallery slash art, you know, self-critique sort of space. So basically,
Nice.
every month or so, I'll put new works, sort of install them in that place, and I make that room really bright, like a gallery, so I could just sit there and sort of self-critique, you know, see what works, what doesn't. So like two parts, yeah.
It sounds like for the pandemic, you were pretty set up then.
Oh yes, that's absolutely.
You don't have to leave the house.
Right, exactly. We got his house right before pandemic, and it's just right on time, basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you productive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of always sort of quote unquote productive according to my friends. I mean, I work in my studio basically every day, from 10-ish to sort of 5, 6, depending on what kind of painting I'm doing, you know. Yeah, basically full day. But now things getting a little busier. I have to sort of spend a day, I mean 3 days or so a week to sort of deal with emails and stuff, you know.
Right. The administrative side of things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always a pest.
Right, yeah. Have to do it, yeah.
Necessary evil.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to talk to you because, I mean, your work is really interesting. I mean, you're tapping into a lot of, like, stuff that just feels now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you, although I haven't read a lot about you, I mean, you've got to have a good story. I mean, so you're in Houston.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Beijing?
I grew up in a city near Beijing. It's more like island, Long Island versus Manhattan, you know.
Right.
So I was like in city near Beijing, but right before I came here in America, I was in Beijing for like 6-7 years in Beijing. Yeah, I was doing universities and career artist back there, and then in Houston.
Yeah, I just feel like you're gonna have a pretty good story coming out of it.
Yeah.
So, what's growing up like? Now, wait, Long Island in the sense of like, are we talking like Islip, or are we talking like the Hamptons?
Oh,
as far as the you know what I mean? Long Island's a varied place, you know.
Right.
So where you grew up, was it
definitely not
okay, or was
I'm okay. Yeah, the city is not very like advanced like Beijing, but it's not really like small. It's kind of like a normal. I don't know how to describe it.
Like suburban. Style. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty lucky. You know, I like that city. And my parents they paint and draw as well, but they're not.
They're artists,
right? No, they are not career artists.
Like hobby artists.
Yeah, but I think they draw really, really good. They never trained like academically, but they catch everything that's alive and that's honest. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So you had that influence, but what did they do for were they like in industry, or like what was their normal job or day-to-day job?
Oh man, that's
is it creative?
They work in this college to teach physics and electricity. I don't know how this
like electrical engineering.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they're like that, and then my dad is in the same college, working as an administrator or something. Yeah.
So they were in the education system.
Right. Yeah.
So growing up, did you? I guess I imagine you were exposed to their creativity if they're drawing and doing stuff on the side. Was it something you were always interested in, or did it sort of reveal itself later? Oh,
for sure. Whenever I can paint and draw stuff like in first grade or second grade. Whenever they have time, they would bring me to this little villages around my city, just do drawings and paintings just on the field. You know, it's beautiful. They would do it, I would do it. We draw old houses and trees and landscapes and stuff. Yeah, that was really important, actually.
Right, and then when you were going to school as a kid, was art class fun? Was it like a good part of school, or was it not very important, or what was the role of it in education?
When I was a kid, I mean, art classes are fine, I guess, but I have some really good mentors. Like they think I got a thing in art for sure when I was a kid,
right.
And
they saw
like,
something in you.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, they want to put me in this like middle school or high school classes for art when I was in like first grade or second grade, and they want to put in there. I got so scary, but all the like bigger students, the cool kids, it would draw together. I think I'm pretty grateful. I think the teacher back then always put me into more advanced class. Yeah.
What was the sort of influence, if any, of music or sports? Were you into those as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I played basketball, and I do high jumping when I was in college. I'm pretty good at it. I won like 4 straight, gold medal when I was in college.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Wait, and gold medals of like college competitions?
Yeah, college meeting, like sport meeting inside that college, the whole college.
Okay. You say gold medal today, and all I'm thinking is Olympics.
Olympics?
So,
Olympic
gold medalist. That's
no, yeah, we have that thing. You gotta motivate kids. So we have that medal. Yeah. And in terms of music, I like blues a lot, and I practice guitar basically every night for like 2 hours. Seriously,
nice.
I have this set of everything,
How did blues get introduced to you? Like, when did you start getting into that?
Just a year ago, I think, because I found blues is kind of like how people paint and create art. Really, just because blues is this thing that it doesn't matter what you play. It matters is like why you play. Really, it's just like why you pick up a guitar and play some notes to express yourself, tell a story. Yeah. So that's all it is about. So improvise, basically. And there are certain notes that's a little bit off, right? There's a blue notes versus like normal notes. It sounds a little off, but that add this personality to this song. And I think my works, you would know it's a little off at some point, Like
no,
in
I
terms
know exactly
of,
what you mean.
Yeah.
It makes total sense, actually, to think about the blues, because the default of blues is kind of like a rendition of the human condition, right? It's about, there's like a structure to it. Mm-hmm. It's not like, improv jazz where it gets, out. Like basically it's, I think of like, blues is almost like representation, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Whereas jazz can be a little more abstract. And so blues is like a portrait. Jazz can be a little more like, abstract in a sense. So it's kind of talking about these stories. I mean, all blues songs are basically about one of 3 things. You know what I mean? It's just about being a person,
Yes.
And in your work, it definitely feels like about society or the individual or what's around us. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Exactly, yeah. The being, I'm glad you were talking about like being now, my works. Yeah, that's really important in terms of if you see my works, if I see my works, you won't see this kind of narrative, this kind of emotion like 20 years ago, right? Or 20 years later, or those characters, and the way I approach painting, I want to be now in the society. Really interested in those, social medias and internet. I think people are funny. My generation, to be more specific. And my works is basically sort of a representation of, or simulation of how social media and young people behave, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally see that. A question about the technology that you're sort of tapping into.
Right.
Is like, what year were you born?
1990.
90. Okay, so
Yeah.
Because a lot of the sort of imagery in the work has kind of like a retro feel to it. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And because a lot of like current meme culture
Right.
is retro in the sense that like it's pulling back to the early
based on those. Yeah.
internet, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So like I'm just interested in that because it's kind of like a callback, but like in music people use the blues to call back, but in this it's a different kind of callback, you know, it's a shorter time frame in a way.
Yeah.
Are you interested in mining that early internet culture?
I mean, I think in terms of callback and in terms of why people like nowadays are making fun of, you know, the graphics back then, because the graphics looks awkward and, you know, ridiculous at some point, but back then it was not, right? Back then it was perfect, you know, like I don't know.
It was amazing back then.
Exactly, yeah. When I first play, you know, the Counter-Strike, I think that's probably my first like shocking 3D video game.
Yeah.
Counter-Strike. I think it can't get more real. That's it. I think that's, I mean, how can you beat that, you know? But anyways, I think the sense of how people nowadays challenging or like making fun of the GTAs is really popular right now, because I think they challenge everything that's established or everything that's normal from the old times. And I think that's kind of, it is what it is, you know. The culture of right now, like internet, social media, is just challenge and trying to, like see, can I make fun of this, or I'm going to do my own version of that, you know, to express myself. Yeah, I like it, you know.
Yeah, I see it in a way as a sort of like contemporary collage. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's so... Yeah. I feel like when the internet kind of exploded with, you know, just the visual side of it, which is, you know, memes or videos or whatever it is, it's... Yeah. It kind of like... So much happened in such a short amount of time that people who come to it, like my son, who's like, you know, a teenager, like he doesn't have the context of like how this thing slowly grew and how the aesthetics and the visuals of it slowly grew. It's just like kind of all there, and people just
with it.
Yeah, people just use it all. Like they'll just slam stuff together, and you know, it's kind of like when I think about sometimes Japanese music is like that, where they just take genres, like they'll take death metal and like pop music and just slam it together, and then, you know what I mean? Like there's no sort of like reverence for like the time flow of, or like a linearity. It's just all smashed together, and it's really kind of like, it's almost surrealism in a way, you know?
That makes total sense. That's actually the reason why I choose to use all those elements for my works. That's really because the things, you know, social media and all those first generation 3D games comes out when I was sort of middle school or something. Yeah, that's my formative year, you know. I witnessed sort of how that happens, and then, you know, in formative years it affects you a lot, right? Your personality affects all my generation people, I think. That's why I think why old people hate us. So, you know, like because lots of things about video games and social media. For example, you think people will listen to you. You know, you think your words matters because you can post it and people have to read it. Right. And you think you have audience. You think people will listen to you, but you think you matters, but you really don't. You know, really. You know,
you're just part of like a bunch of noise, really.
Exactly. But I think that affects us a lot. And then also, to me, graphically, because I'm always doing art when I was a kid, all the way. So the shocking, you know, moments, the 3D, how this first generation engineer trying to have something 3D. I think that approach, I mean, technically approach, I think I'm sort of sort of trying to transfer how the first generation engineer approached 3D images to, you know, my art painterly approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can tell like the first generation of video game producer or coding, they are not really artists, to be honest.
Right.
They just want to make things 3D and make sense, right? I think that kind of thing is almost like how painting starts, you know, in the very beginning. Just want to make things 3D, but in a total technique way. And then those technique, computer coding, sort of structuring stuff, it's what defines me, you know. So I want to transfer that into my work. I think that's something I'm really familiar with, and I have the right to sort of speak about it.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a weird question. Mm-hmm. Do you like the way that stuff looks?
I do. I think the way people think is kind of ridiculous is because they betray their own sort of sense of, you know, what is beauty, you know, because back then it is. Nobody's hated, you know, because the first 3D games, everyone was shocked, you know.
Right.
We definitely like it. It's just because it gets better and better that we think, when you look back, you know, compared to what's going on right now, it's ridiculous and too raw, you know, too awkward. But I mean, I love things back then more than, you know, like what's going on right now. Do you know Cyberpunk, the new? Yeah. It almost reached to this point. It's called Uncanny Valley, right? Where you get really disgusted by the graphics right now. It's too close to human, but it's not human. Yeah. One step, you know, you feel like kind of disgusting. You know?
Yeah, it's like you're saying, like just slightly off in a way that's disturbing. You know, it's almost like, you know, I mean, we've seen those shows like TV shows that are animated in certain ways that, or actually, have you seen those Star Wars? That, you know, there's so many different like versions of Star Wars things, but there's these ones that are kind of like faux real. I don't know. There's like CGI, but they're weird. They're kind of human, but they're not obviously, and it's just disturbing. Whereas if you take South Park, that's just like you don't think about it at all. You're like, oh yeah, this is great. Like you don't even, you know what I mean? It's so far from reality in a way that you can just focus in on the jokes or whatever that stuff is. So,
for sure. South Park. I'm glad you mentioned it. South Park is so important to me. That's how I learned. That's basically all I learned American culture before I came here. That's my main resources. I mean, it's kind of, but it's so real. You know, it's definitely brutal honesty in that show. You know,
right.
That's why I can joke around with Americans. You know, because, you know, I got the jokes. That's really important. You know, when I come here. You know.
Yeah, like a sense of humor, I think, is a great icebreaker when it comes to like language and culture. You know what I mean?
So important.
And I have like extended family who, you know, haven't grown up in the U.S. and when they watch shows like The Simpsons, they just don't get it. Like they don't. The humor doesn't translate. They're just like, I don't understand why that's funny.
Exactly.
But then when you're here, you're like, it's just gold. You know, like it's like comedy gold. But there's so much of. You could learn a lot. I think about the temperament of people, or just how they're the real psychology.
Stuff.
The psychology of it. You know, which is it's interesting.
Yeah, my friend in China, he told me they learn English by listening to CNN and Fox News. I'm like, all right,
that's depressing.
Let's see how that goes.
That's depressing.
I
can imagine. Well, so if, let's say, you were going to advise someone who's going to move to Beijing, who spent their first 12 years in the United States, what would be the best entry point as far as culture and like what to watch or what to indulge in to sort of like open that door?
Oh, wow.
Is it harder?
I mean, that's I never thought about it. I guess stand-up comedies for sure.
Oh yeah,
stand-up comedies. I think they are sort of yeah, they're doing pretty well, stand-up comedy in China recently this year. And then, I mean, they talk about a lot of reality facts and stuff about Beijing, about major cities, about the culture, about young people, about old people, about how they interact. Yeah, I think stand-up comedy is the way to go. You know, yeah.
Yeah, but I imagine that would be. I think it's a testament to you. Like, if South Park is your entry point,
yeah,
comedy is difficult as a sort of starting point,
right?
I think because it's the language and flow of it is so such a cadence that relates to humor that is not your straightforward. Like everyone, when you sort of like start to learn another language, they just start with those basic, it's so basic. Yeah. And it's like, here's how you say good morning, and then where's the bathroom or whatever.
Right.
So they keep it so basic, but that's like jumping into the deep. I mean, stand-up comedy is so nuanced, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it opens up so many possibilities. When you look at comedy, when you heard some references, you have to look it up, That's how you learn. That's how I learn, actually. Some references, some celebrity names pops up that I didn't know. I'll search for it. I know the whole thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it opens up research, and then you willing to do that, because you have to get the jokes. Probably just me. Yeah.
No, it's a pretty amazing sort of like, portal into what is this like bizarre American experience, I think. But wait, when did you come? So you went to undergrad. Did you do undergrad and grad school over there and then come over? But you did grad school in Houston, right?
Yes, that's when I came here, 2015, for grad school.
But when did you start learning English?
I mean, we have English class all along, from kid to, but I think the real learning English, like real English, in terms of communication stuff, is probably 1 year before 2014-ish.
Right.
Yeah, that's how when I learn English, in the sake of communication,
Yeah, that's. I mean.
Yeah.
You're pretty amazing at it in a short amount of time, I have to say. But I guess if you've been learning since you're a kid, the foundations of it,
right, yeah,
that's helpful, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. I think it must be so interesting. I mean, coming from China, in 2015, and then going to school in Houston, and then with all the stuff that's gone down, because the relationship, the sort of governmental relationship between the U.S. and China.
Oh.
Complicated. China in the world, US in the world, it's so complicated, and and then to come over here and then the pandemic hits and all that, I just can't imagine. And Houston of all places, Houston's like deep US, like USness,
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
I think it's a different landing pad than New York or like San Francisco or something, but I don't know, what was that like? What was like landing in Houston like, and that experience of going to school there? And then the experience since then with like all the stuff that's been going on, and has your work tapped into that at all, or is it kind of its own sort of like relationship with the bigger idea of just new media in our existence?
That's really
a lot.
No, yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
that's a great question, actually. I mean, when I came here. Yeah, like people are. I mean, Houston was pretty red back then, and I came here the last year of Obama's, and you know how that goes. And I think the thing that I learned is not like how I understand America. Instead, the thing I learned is people here. It's pretty diverse here, actually. All kinds of people here, and I think if I can, yeah, they're pretty diverse here, And then the sort of things I learned, I have a lot of different friends from different countries and different races. Is I think we are just human beings, that make me to think like the boundary in terms of country, like which country you come from, and is that a boundry even, we're just human beings, like
Right.
the identity is just human being on this earth, and I mean, there's the boundary. This idea of boundary challenges me, like I sort of doubt it, where do you set a boundary, your neighborhood or your city, your province, your state, your country, where's the boundary? Why do you set a boundary there, the country? What if alien come here? Does the alien care? Are you American or Chinese? Like right. So in that case, my art shifted, to I'm trying to figure out what can I say and what's more real to my own thoughts, So I'm really familiar with my generation, and because my generation was affected by internet, but internet is like a global thing. So I think all those things that I do, that I paint, they are universal, kind of. People around the world, they know this stuff, and that's why I chose to make color field paintings for a long time, because there's no like cultural boundary, in the color field paintings. I think that's kind of funny. That's the reason why I chose color field painting, because the language is universal. And then I involved this humor, involved this computer game, this internet culture in it. That make me sort of supporting my own thoughts in terms of identity and boundary,
Right. Yeah. It seems, I mean, it's a weird expression, and I've heard it in different ways. Even like in some of the stuff that I've done like recently, there's something that was written, it was using the expression post-human, where it's not really about necessarily the individual or identity, but it's more about this kind of like post-identity environment of like imagery. And the internet operates that way so often, to where people go in and play games and are on, chats or in VR or whatever they're doing that's sort of disassociated from the body and from the location.
Yeah.
But the dynamic of that is that we are all saddled with this body and location that you can't escape in a way too, you know what I mean? So there's a dynamic there between those two things. I think a lot of people find new media and digital media to be a kind of escapism, to where you can, just avoid that whole side of things, and you can kind of be anonymous or just be kind of like get lost in that world. It's kind of it's a really interesting sort of like parallel universe in a way that has its own aesthetics and things like that. I was thinking about some of those sort of like the retro sort of 3D gaming things that we were talking about that are kind of like antiquated aesthetic that some people find is like, oh, that's so bad or whatever, but there's people love it because it's kind of like I know, it's like reclaiming a time, like when pixels became big again, because everyone's trying to run away from things being pixelated, and they were like, no, actually, when things got really good, they were like, oh, Mario was the best, You always like look fondly back, but there's a contingent of that kind of aesthetic where it gets, I don't know, it's almost like dark. Like I'm sure you know about it. I mean, there's parts of the internet where like that kind of imagery is co-opted into some like really weird kind of like, role play thing or whatever. And it's almost like the parallel of like horror movies in like regular media. And I don't know, like, how do you feel about that side of, or do you even go there?
The dark net?
All that stuff. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. Honestly, I don't really partake in it, but I just know a little bit about it. I mean, when you have a kid who's on a computer a lot, you start to like inform yourself on this stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was pretty fascinated about the dark net and everything about that, but it takes too much to get into it. They just want to keep it their own circle and then don't want normal people to get in. There's all kinds of complicated things, like you have to click on the right corner while eating a pizza in the same time to get in. Stuff like that, it's weird. But yeah, I couldn't kind of get rid of it. But I saw some YouTuber doing sort of those kind of introductions. That's pretty deep, but that's really new, I think, to me. I think that's more like people born after 2000, They are more like more know what's going on.
Oh, you're getting too old, man.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have. I mean, we just don't have that spare time to do research on it. I think we have jobs, you know, we have to work.
Right.
That's the
We're
main
trying
reason.
to do like other things too.
Yeah, if we don't have financial pressures, we definitely would do the same thing. You know, like we just just mess around. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the sort of the question of like, well, is it good to be a 45-year-old person sitting in a room on a computer all day and not doing anything else but that, and just trying to like, you know,
wait, how old are you?
Every quarter. I'm older than that, but I'm just taking a hypothetical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I thought you're like the same age with me. Like you post workout images out every day. I think you gotta be, you know.
I was born in the 70s. If that makes you.
Oh, really?
Younger. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta keep working out then. It makes people young. Yeah, I thought Asian don't age, you know, but they did pretty good. Yeah, congrats. Yeah.
Well, I've married into an Asian family, so part of the diet is my diet, and I've been vegetarian. I've been vegetarian since '92, so maybe that helps.
Oh, that helps.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, worth to try. Yeah.
I mean, I was eating in college. The reason I became vegetarian is I was eating McDonald's every day, which did not work out well for looks.
McDonald's,
like,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was too young to get big, but I just didn't feel good. You know, it's just like. It wasn't working out, so that's when I tried it, and I just felt so much better. So
definitely, vegetarian. Definitely, the thing is, we know that's gonna be better, but we just can't do it. You know, we know it's going to definitely be better. You know,
well, environmentally too now because of, you know,
for sure,
everything, about the rainforest and cattle and all that stuff, and
everything. We know it's gonna be better, but it's just hard to quit meat. You know, but you know, the meat make you smell, make you like, everything come out of you is smelly. We eat meat and everything, you know, you get oil. But anyways, I should try.
Well, I will say this. They've gotten way better at the fake meats.
Absolutely.
Way better at it. I mean, it used to be awful, and now it's actually pretty good.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
they have all this kind of...
Yeah. There's restaurants that, you know, here in New York City you can go to that are all like vegan. I'm not vegan, but they're all vegan. And I mean, it's, you know, it's pretty good.
You're satisfied. Okay, enough. All right.
Considering. Yeah. I mean, you know, my family will like, I know like ravenous carnivores who will actually eat it and be like, oh, this isn't bad. This is actually pretty good.
Okay. Yeah.
We're getting there.
Good to know.
They're engineering. Food engineering.
Good to know. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, and old people shouldn't be, I think, in my opinion, shouldn't be sitting on a computer 25 hours a day. You know,
right, totally.
Getting lost in the dark corners of the universe.
Right.
But, but I think your work seems to really tap into some of the aesthetic of that. But in my interpretation of what I've seen of it, it is related in a one-on-one to sort of everyday, whether it's like, you know, people, like images of people that you're trying to sort of emotionally relate to or understand, and crowds, or like or objects, whether it's like still life objects or you know, computer screens. It all seems to be very relatable in a human experience of like the dialogue, both aesthetically and conceptually, with like digital media and how it's so much a part of all of our lives these days. You know,
for sure. I consider digital materials as found objects, you know, because I mean, I read a lot, and you know, I like to learn from artists, like in painting history, you know, and sort of find where I can put myself in it. But people, like for example, like when Plane just came out, you know, the 1910 or something, everything is about plane and speed, futurism, right? And then I mean, you have later on you have like pretty recently Robert Rauschenberg, you know, Rauschenberg put all the found objects on it. Duchamp found objects on it. Objects that come from daily life, right? Objects that define people's daily life. The tire, right? You know, the wire.
Bed sheets.
Yeah. Now I think the found objects is graphic image and social, the stuffs on social media. They are found objects to me, you know. So I sort of, you can say it's collage, or, you know, in that way. that define what's going on, I think. Yeah,
definitely. Don't you think Warhol would have just loved what's going on with computers?
Oh wow, yeah. I read a lot of books. Warhol, love it. Even Jeff Koons, retrospective. They really just embrace what's going on. I think that's important. It's definitely controversial at that time to anyone, basically. But when time goes on, when you look back, what can define that year? It's definitely them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny too is, as much as your work is tapping into that world, it's very analog. You're very kind of analog in your approach. You know what I mean?
Analog means, that's a new word.
Non-digital, like you're physically making it. It's not like virtual. You're not like a new media artist. You're a painter.
Right.
You're old school, but you're just tapping into the new media aesthetic and sort of conceptualism in a way.
For sure.
You're doing paintings. I don't know if you know the artist Ian Cheng, and he does these sort of like projections of these video games that he create, or they look like video games, but they're just sort of like abstract forms moving around and stuff. But it's all in the digital realm. But it's very much like the work, the ideas and the sort of the conceptual side of the work is being created within that same medium, whereas you are using, sort of like an old school or like antiquated medium of like painting and dealing with like all this sort of digital culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? Is that something that you're just a painter and you defaulted to that, or have you thought about using new media as a vehicle as well?
Actually, I thought about it. I did experiment with new media, but in the end, I think painting still have great potentials in terms of, visual power and stuff like that. But one thing is true, that is painting can carry less and less information in terms of narrative, But painting itself, painterly in terms of, I'm still pretty a big supporter of Clement Greenberg, painting as painting. So I think painting still have great potential, and the way I approach, whatever I approach around me, right, the elements, I use color field sort of mentality, or the way the strategy that I sort of trying to create, to learn from the digital creation, transfer into painterly movement. That's why I use airbrush, actually. Airbrush quality and everything is almost like how they, do, and how, like, what the graphic looks like digitally, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I use airbrush. I think that fits my concept.
Because you're combining edges, which are a lot of times kind of crisp, but you're using the airbrush, which never has the hand in a way, even though it does. But it just doesn't. There's no real physical trace of the hand. Whereas if you put a bunch of thick paint on a brush and you goop it in there, you sort of see the stroke. Right. Yeah, it kind of like absorbs the stroke. It's like air is coming between you and the canvas when you use like that kind of spray, which is, I always think is like fascinating.
That's a new kind of painterly.
Yeah, it's like pushing pigments through the air and they just land onto the canvas, which is,
for sure. Yeah,
it removes a little bit of that one-on-one of the hand, but actually the spray motion is being dictated by the hand anyways, but it has a feel of like a removal or a separation,
right. And it's a little bit out of control, because the hair is going to flow a little bit. That's painterly comes in, and then the movement, especially the early graphics, the early 3D games, I think they painted with their mouth or something, for the patterns. I think that's like the rawness and then out of control, sort of really hard to make things right. And that's kind of how airbrush works. But that's kind of my thing. Right now I'm getting too good at it. Actually, I can control everything. It becomes kind of, I need to find a new way to involve this kind of unconsciousness or out of control sort of thing to really active my painting, you know.
Yeah. It's an integral part of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like a really important sort of ingredient into the work. It's funny because you know, I think if people looked at your work, you know, they would, especially older people who may not have grown up with, you know, computers now, they would just be, oh, this is really like, this is kind of like this weird computer,
right,
like language, like, you know, a visual language you're not familiar with, and think it's like, oh, is it like digital or computer based? And I don't know what this is about. And you're just making paintings that are involved with, you know, that are inspired by that or whatever. A lot of times in my work, like I do digital animations, like I make a lot of my work on the computer.
Nice.
You know, so, but people would never look at my work and think that. They would just be like, oh, that animation is just moving trees or a sunset or whatever. But it's the digital, it's literally in the digital realm, but it doesn't have that, the quote unquote look that I think people associate as almost like a, I don't know, it's like a stand-in for it. You know what I mean? Like your portraits, once you sort of block out those heads and create them as a sort of geometric form in a way, people are just like, oh, that's computery or you know, like that's like VR or augmented reality. It becomes this like signifier, you know, that it's just interesting to think that, I mean, you're as analog as it gets really in the way that you're making these things,
that makes sense.
But they're just paintings, but that kind of, there's a sort of like a hierarchy of the way people think about the representation of images. And in the sense of your work, I think it goes so fast to that digital part. But in my experience, the more I look at the images, the more I sort of tap into the association with, like, you know, humans and our what makes us tick, or what happens when we get in groups, or what happens when we're isolated. You know, I think it's a really interesting kind of pace to the way that people will view your work. I mean, I shouldn't speak on behalf of other people, but hopefully that happens, you know. But the cool thing is you never know how people are going to read them, I guess. You know, that's the beauty of making art as opposed to writing an essay.
I'm totally for it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's.
Have you? I was just going to say, have you gotten a pretty? Would you say the response to your work in general? I know there's a lot from different angles, but has it been pretty diverse, or do you feel like people kind of come at it from a specific angle, and do you feel like they're reading it kind of the way that you're trying to express it?
I think yes. I mean, there's different way to see my works for sure. You know, for people that doesn't do art, for sure, like entertain myself. You know, if they get it, they can have this nostalgia. Perfect. You know, but people like in art industry, you know, and art critique and art artists, they will tell me it's the color field and the composition hit them, and then and this new type of painterly is weird, and also the old, like the like people that is older, they know that those characters, those images are what they hate their kids doing, but because they collect art and they do art, they know art, that they can see, they can relate to some other artists that they know. And that's really good, I think. That's what I want to do. I want to react to painting history. That's really important. That's more important than what it is, literally, you know.
Yeah,
react
definitely.
to it, and then sort of trying to figure out what's going on and try to have my own really honest voice. Yeah, it's all about, I'm a pretty academic kind of person, to be honest. You know, I need my work to be I need my painting to be not only entertaining, you know, like it need to be honest and matching my concept, and then reacts to what I learned, because I learned traditional oil painting, realistic, for 10 years almost. Reacts to my fundamental, my skill, and then reacts to painting the painters that I like, and in history. Reacts to. I always trying to. The way I decide if this work can stand or not is I want to imagine my work in a gallery or art museum next to my favorite artist, and I will look at all of them. Is it awkward being there, my work? Right. So that's the first step. And the second step is, can you distinguish from them, right? Can you, if you put them in the role in the order of time, are you possibly maybe can have the same kind of responsibility describing what's going on in that time period? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a goal of a lot of, you know, artists who want to be topical, or this feeling of like, is my art kind of like unconsciously representing now?
Right.
But like it's, why would I want to represent like 50 years ago or 200 years ago? You know,
right?
Like,
yeah.
You kind of want the dialogue to be pertinent to what's happening in our world today. You know,
right.
Which is sometimes when artists are hyper conscious of that, it becomes illustrated, or it's
right.
It's too much like, I'm trying to be hip. You know,
so
like
true.
People who would just, you know, paint portraits of people taking selfies all the time. It's like, okay, we get it. That's going to look very dated,
right?
In like 20 years from now. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's an interesting sort of dynamic to think. You know, will my art, if I put it up in that, you know, history of like these other painters, will it feel like it's representing the time without illustrating the time?
That's so
do you
true.
know what I mean?
That's so
it's
true.
hard to do. It's hard, right?
Yeah,
I think
that's very true. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to like, I mean, to tell a story that happening now, of course, but you don't want to be literal, right? You don't want to be narrative. You know, in a sense, like, yeah, like if I mean, like for my opinion, I like jokes and comedies, but I don't tell a whole joke in my painting. You know, it's not about the punchline. You know, like it's about the way you approach painting. Compares to other painters back then, the way you use color and the way you use hard edge paintings, and how you combine those things by borrowing or by referencing what's going on right now. You know, you can't just, you know, I mean, you paint Billie Eilish, for sure, this is gonna be this year's painting, you know, but you can't be too literal, you know. I think painting is not a good vehicle for telling stories now. I mean, you know,
that's
it's not the right
interesting.
media, right?
Yeah, was it tricky because I mean there is a perception that this sort of educational framework in China is really heavily built on, you know, technique. And I know firsthand because, you know, where I teach, we have a lot of students who come from China, and a lot of them are really good
fundamentals,
fundamentals, but maybe have a hard time breaking that and getting loose. You know what I mean? And just, you know, you see a Peter Doig painting and it's like, what the right. You know, like, what is that? You know? So, you know, kind of like a musician, if you grow up like doing only classical guitar lessons and then you hear Buddy Guy or like, you know, Muddy Waters, and you're like, what the, you know, how do I go to that from this that I've been learning and knowing? It's almost like you have to unlearn and then learn almost like the soul of it, you know, not just like the technique of it. Was that something that was, I mean, it seems like you did a good job of kind of, because I've seen like earlier drawings where clearly you have like technical ability and you know, and your work now is not, I mean, there is technical ability in it, but it's not illustrating technique. It's you're using a technique to describe the kind of work that you want to describe, which is technique, and it's impressive. But a lot of people off the street might come in and not notice that. They would just be like, well, that's weird. How did they do that? You know?
Exactly. So in terms of technique, it's really hard to understand unless you try it, right? Because I was copying because I was trying to learn Matisse and Philip Gustin, you know. And when I copy the works and when I see the works in the museum, I stand there for a long time. You can tell like all those kind of random looking marks, they are well organized, they are planned, you know. Nothing is surprise, you know. They know what they are doing. To reach this type of visual effects, they have to have 5 layers, including covering prayer layers to get that effects. You know, the thickness, the texture, everything is well planned, you know. That's when I know, they are not just bullshitting, you know. They are not just mess around like people think, yeah, they are just like Pollock, or they are just fooling around. They are not. They are really carefully arranged, you know.
Yeah,
so is
and they
my
were
opinion.
living
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
There's always those people who are like, oh, I could do that. It's like,
No, you can't.
But these people are doing it every day. Like, even if you could, quote unquote, could do it,
Yeah.
you're not. And these people are doing it, living and breathing and eating that stuff all day and all night. So there's something
Absolutely,
about
yeah.
that, you know.
I think it's how I mean you probably have that situation too. People ask you why those paintings are good and why I cannot understand it. Why our kids can do it? It's because I think art you should respect art as a subject, same as scientists, you know, right? Because like if you go to the top scientist office or something, you look at their notebook, there are some equations. You're like, I don't understand, so it's nonsense, right? It is not. It's just you don't understand it.
You didn't learn the language,
right? Why can you understand it? You know, that's the question.
Yeah.
If you go to MoMA, you can't understand it. Why can you understand it? You know, did you have that enough? So yeah, totally.
That's frustrating, isn't it? When people do that, they just expect to be able to like get it, like
right.
That,
like why? Like why do you think you are able to get it? You know, in any subject, you know, the top.
I think because it's not utilitarian though.
Mm-hmm.
Because like music, you don't have to understand the technique of music. You could just feel it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And whereas if someone walks into a car garage and they open up a hood of a car and they say, I don't understand this.
Right.
It's predicated on the fact that thing can drive out of there and go take them somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they have faith in it even though they don't understand how it works.
Right.
With art doesn't, like, you have to have faith in it for it to take you somewhere, but it's not built on the fact that it drives. It's just it's your imagination. It's all subjective, which for a lot of people they can't understand that, or it's difficult. It's a difficult leap to make, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just what makes art, you know. That's why people go to MoMA. I'm going later today.
Yeah. I was there yesterday, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Guggenheim, I was those two yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good segue though. We could talk about the show. So, when did you install it?
I think they installed it on the 23rd. It's on East Hampton. The whole gallery, they have this space. It's like almost like a seasonal space. Every summer, they have this place on in East Hampton. I didn't know East Hampton that well, but now I know. Like they told me, Leeson Gallery is there, and Pace Gallery have a space there for the summer. You know, it's fascinating. Yeah, but that's where my show is.
How's that? I haven't been to that space yet. Is it a pretty nice space?
It's a unique space. It's a different space than the normal gallery, but I like it. Yeah. People are really chill there, and we had a good time. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I haven't, I've only done Long Island here and there, but it is nice, short trip out of the city to go to the beach and relax. But yeah, there's a lot of money and collectors. And,
Yeah, I heard about
there's
it.
a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
But that's if all the art collectors go out to the beach for the summer, the galleries are going to go follow them.
Right.
Might as well.
Right, exactly.
It's like, here, look, while you're at the beach, you can look at art too.
Yeah, since
it
you're
works
here,
out that way.
Exactly.
But so is the show up for a month?
Yes.
Is it the normal duration?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. A month.
That's great.
And yeah, hopefully everything work out. And I mean, I'm just feel very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be.
Do you have friends in New York when you visit?
Yeah, I have friends, and then I have this gallery owner directors that we had dinner together. Do you know GR Gallery? By chance?
GR?
Yeah, it's like
GR Gallery?
Yes, it's right next to Ho in the city. So we had.
I don't know it.
It's all right. Yeah, we had dinner together, and then with director and the owner, and then in East Hampton I had dinner and partying with the whole crew. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, and then
that was lively.
Yeah. Yeah, it is active. Yeah.
That's great. And then you got to see some art too.
Yes. Visit museums all around the city, Manhattan. Yeah, every time I go to museums, I'll have some new ideas and inspirations. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that link with art history and the contemporary work they show, It's inspiring.
Right. It's like,
sure.
Yeah, to me, visiting museum is like, because they always organize the paintings in order of time, right? So you look at it, then all of a sudden it stopped, right? Around,
right.
And then you will sort of have this feeling, okay, the next will be something like that.
Right. Like, what do I put in?
Yeah, exactly.
What would I do on the next wall?
I will always have a lot of inspirations and new ideas based on that. That's why I love our museums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's great.
Right.
And then when you come to New York, is there one food place that you're just dying to go? Or is there a certain thing that you want to eat when you come?
Eating.
Are you not a foodie?
I'm not really a foodie.
What's the food situation?
I'm not really a foodie, unfortunately. But yeah, museum-wise, definitely MoMA, Guggenheim, and Whitney, New Museum. Those are the must-goes. Metropolitan is just too much, I've been there twice, and then after that, I want to see something new. If I can say,
The Met is amazing, but it's like you well, at least in my opinion, you do it in like little bits. Like you go and you go see one area one day, and then you wait a while, and then you go and see another. If you try to do that whole thing, it's like running 2 marathons.
Right.
It's exhausting. Why are museums so exhausting?
Right, exactly.
Aren't they tiring?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we just don't fly through it like a lot of people, and we just actually sit there and look at stuff, and it's just, I call it museum legs, where like halfway through you just feel like you need to sit down.
Oh, for sure.
I'm like, I'm just sitting here walking around looking at art. Why is this so tiring?
Right. Oh, that's so true. I run in the end. I just run through all the galleries.
Sprint through contemporary art?
Yeah. I sprint through Renaissance art,
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Just a drive-by.
Yeah. I have to go there, but you just run through it,
Yeah. Have you been to like the Louvre or the Tate in London?
The Louvre? Oh, I haven't got a chance. I wish I can go to London, actually. I have a solo in November in London. I wish I can go there. But we'll see what's happening.
Yeah, hopefully.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. But the Louvre, for sure, but haven't got a chance to go there. I will.
The Louvre was amazing, but there were so many people in front of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
With their stupid phones, like taking pictures of it. You couldn't even get close to it.
Right.
And then there's just a bunch of phones in front of the thing. And they have it, when I was there, it was behind glass, all the pictures are like reflected. It just was ridiculous. Yeah. It's like going to see live music now, where everyone's got their phones up and you can't see the musician because everyone's trying to take crappy video that you're not going to be able to hear it on your phone anyway.
Right.
That's funny.
That's why I made that piece. I don't know if you saw that or not. I made a Mona Lisa piece. So basically, I made a really blurry Mona Lisa with this. When you use phone to take picture, there's like a yellow square to focus on the head. There's like a really clear yellow square, but Mona Lisa is really, really, really blurry. And then the title of that piece is "I flew half of the Earth just to take a picture in person."
Oh, I didn't know that was the title of that.
Yeah, that's the title. Yeah, that's the title. Yeah. But I totally feel you. Right. Yeah.
So your imagined experience of that was my real experience.
Yeah, because I've been to MoMA, people stare at nights in front of Stare at Night all the time.
Yeah.
Picasso, all the time. The dancing.
I mean,
five.
I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
We're kind of conditioned at this point. It's like, well, if I didn't take a picture, did it exist?
That's what's in the trailer. That's what's in the museum trailer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotta prove that I was here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So now that you hung the show, do you take a little time, or are you just still back at it? Well, I guess you got the London show coming up, so you gotta.
Yeah. I think
get right back.
I have another show coming in September, solo in Houston. That's pretty interesting. It kind of really different the body of works. I made this show about because I had this grant from HAA, Houston Art Alliance, and I got to do this project regarding young international artist immigration. Basically my journey. Yeah. Try to immigrate, try to get visa, green card here, in the States. That's about that journey. And I'm pretty excited about that too. Yeah, so that's their stat, and then still working on the November show in London. That's what's happening. Yeah.
And you've shown back home, right, in Shanghai or Beijing, or did you had a show in Shanghai too, didn't you?
Yeah,
or
right
did you
now.
Just go to school there.
Yeah, right now.
Oh, it's up now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a group show, and yeah.
Is it
that's
cool
the only one.
showing it? Is it cool showing back? Yeah,
it is. It is pretty cool. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
How's the reception to the work?
I only know a little bit about it because this is so busy to ask for what's going on. But I think they did pretty well. I like the organization and the installation and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like showing back in China. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Last question. When you're painting, what's the sound situation? Although you've got the spray thing, so maybe that's making noise, but are you a music person while you're working?
Yeah.
Silence, podcasts, what's the
deal? Yeah. Two things, right? First thing, because the airbrush, the compressor is very loud, and then I open the window, I have this fan going on to suck my air out of the house. So I have to use this really loud speaker, and then I listen to two things. First will be stand-up comedy, right?
Oh, nice.
And the second is just blues concert, mostly Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Those two old school guys. Basically blues or stand-up comedy or Chinese stand-up comedy,
Right.
Yeah, mostly those things.
Is it mostly Chinese, or do you do the American stuff?
Mostly English. Yeah, mostly English.
Mostly English.
Yeah.
It's so good now, isn't it, stand-up? I feel like it's like a renaissance, right? I mean, there's so much good stuff out there.
You're talking about new stand-up comedians?
Yeah, like stand-up in general. I feel like it's so good. Like,
Yeah, I like all... I mean, although I like stand-up comedy, I don't really listen to like a few people, because all other people's references, I don't really get it, too much cultural thing, your childhood kind of in America. I don't have, so... I like people make general jokes and international jokes, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but do you like Chappelle? I mean, it's
Dave Chappelle for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Louis C.K., Bill Burr, those type of guys.
Yeah.
George. Oh, what's that name? Oh my God, George. The old dude.
Not Carlin. George
Carlin. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so where can people check out your work if they can't get out to the Hamptons, if they don't have a summer home on the beach,
right?
And they can't get out there? So what's the best way for them to check out your work? You're on social media and website. Right?
Yeah, I'm on social media, website, and then I update my website once in a while, every 2 months, I think. And mostly I will post maybe 1 out of 5 new works on my IG. Check it out. I think that's it. And
I like the metric 1 of 5. You only get 1 of 5.
yeah, exactly.
You gotta keep some from the real,
Right. I mean, some paintings failed. Just some paintings doesn't work.
Okay.
Gotta be honest. Some painting doesn't really good, so I just burn it or something. Yeah, but
yeah, you don't want to release the teaser for the movie that's not getting made.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, man. It's been great talking to you.
And thank you a lot. I love this conversation for sure. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Enjoyed it. I listened to your other podcast as well. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm glad we're doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Many thanks to the New York City Crit Club, Golden Artist Colors, and Fulcrum Coffee Roasters for the sponsorship of the podcast. Many thanks to Brigitte for her intro-outro music. Make sure you check out Gao's work at the Whole Gallery or online. And many thanks for listening.